The chamber reeked of scorched ozone and arrogance. Harsh, unnatural light spilled from jagged overhead panels, slicing through the room like surgical blades. At the center, slumped on one knee, was a hooded figure, dirt-smeared, blood-specked, motionless. Shackles clamped around his wrists buzzed faintly with static energy. A dozen alien generals surrounded him, towering on a raised platform of obsidian alloy, their mandibles twitching with disdain. General Carrix of the Virex Dominion leaned forward, tendrils curling. "You don't speak, Terran?" "Curious. Your kind usually dies begging." The figure didn't move. Didn't flinch. The only sound was the slow drip of blood tapping against the floor beneath him. Carrix sneered and turned to his peers. "This is their elite?" "A myth," they said. "CALLSIGN Raven, whispered like a ghost story. And now? Just meat in shackles." General Voss, the youngest among them, narrowed his eyes. He wasn't so sure. The prisoner's breathing was too calm. Too measured. Carrix paced before the human like a beast savoring its prey. "We burned your colonies. We gutted your fleet. And what did Earth send? A broken soldier with a name that no one dares record." He leaned in. "I expected more from a legend." The hooded figure finally stirred. Slowly, methodically, he raised his head. Beneath the shadows, one eye gleamed, a cold, steely blue that didn't reflect fear. It reflected calculation. "You didn't capture me," he said quietly. His voice was low, gravel-laced, and razor-sharp. "You invited me." The room fell silent. Several of the generals turned their heads. Voss straightened in his seat. Carrix's tendrils twitched. "What did you say?" "You set a trap for us, Bess," the prisoner continued. "But you caught something older. Something patient." A flicker of static zipped through the lighting system. For a second, the overhead lights dimmed, just a blink, then returned to normal. Most didn't notice. Voss did. Carrix laughed, sharp and wet. "You've been drugged, tortured, and isolated for 6 days. Your mind's slipping." "No," Raven said. "It's slipping in." Carrix slammed his claw down on the podium. "Enough riddles!" Raven turned his head slightly toward him. "Then let me be clear. You're not interrogating a man. You're disarming a trigger." From somewhere deep in the fortress, a klaxon let out a half-formed blare before cutting off abruptly. One of the generals tapped at their combead. No signal. Voss stood. "Carrix, something's wrong." "Silence, boy." But the room had changed. It was subtle, a shift in air pressure, the way the lights hummed just a touch too loud. Raven tilted his head, as if listening to music only he could hear. "My blood was coated with a quantum cipher," he said. "Your scanners missed it because they were looking for weapons." The lights flickered again. Longer this time. "My mission was to walk through your front door and open it from the inside." Carrix growled. "Bluff." Voss snapped his claws. "He's stalling. We need to seal the chamber." Raven lifted both shackled hands, revealing blood streaks along his wrists, but no signs of panic. "You wanted Earth's secrets," he said. "Here's one: we never lost the war. We just sent shadows." One of the guards at the door collapsed without a sound. A dark shape slipped back into the ventilation shaft. Carrix spun. "Seal!" The lights died. Darkness swallowed the chamber, followed by the whir of failing machinery and the shriek of shorting circuits. Emergency red glows sputtered to life. And in that crimson light, Raven stood. The chains lay broken at his feet. Voss drew his plasma blade. "What are you?" Raven stepped forward, slow and deliberate. "CALLSIGN Raven," he said, voice steady. "Ghost operative, Tier 0, Human Expeditionary Force." He passed the dead console, laying his palm flat on it. The walls lit with fractured holographics, maps, targets, Dominion fleet movements, all spilling from their own systems. "You never captured me," Raven whispered. "You summoned your own execution." Carrix lunged in a rage, but Raven vanished into the shadows before claws could find flesh. Voss stared, trembling, as whispers filled the room. Earth remembers. The real battle had just begun. Darkness clung to the VRX command spire like a living thing. Emergency strobes pulsed along the corridor walls, bathing everything in blood-red flashes. Each burst of light revealed more of the carnage. Guards splayed across the floors, weapons unfired, eyes wide in disbelief. Security drones drifted lifeless in midair, their cores overloaded by something that hadn't come from outside. It came from within. General Voss moved with sharp precision, plasma blade ignited, eyes scanning every corner. The ancient halls of the Dominion stronghold no longer felt imposing. They felt vulnerable. "You brought this," he muttered to Carrix, who marched beside him, fuming. "You caged a Terran phantom and now the fortress bleeds." Carrix's jaw flexed. "You let his words rattle you. He's a rogue asset, nothing more." Voss stopped mid-step. "Assets don't override Dominion infrastructure from a chair." They reached the primary control nexus. Dead. Screens flickered static, and the AI interface pulsated erratically. Dozens of code lines ran across the monitors in Terran script. Carrix slammed a fist onto the console. "Purge this. Lock everything down." "No use," Voss said, sliding into a control chair. He tapped furiously. "Our systems are talking to themselves. Feedback loops are forming across all nodes. It's a recursive virus, smart, modular, and adaptive." He looked up. "This wasn't a solo op. Raven came with backup." "Silent." "Already inside." A dull thud echoed through the hallway behind them, then another. Something heavy was moving through the duct systems. Carrix spun, claws raised. "Security battalions?" "No. Too precise." Voss rose. "That's human doctrine. Shadow teams, small, surgically lethal. They don't fight wars. They end them." For a moment, the two generals locked eyes. No arrogance now. Just a shared, creeping dread. Meanwhile, deeper below, Raven moved like a ripple through water. His steps were silent, measured. His gear, minimal, yet surgically effective, had been hidden in a drainage shaft weeks before his capture. Retrieving it had taken under 90 seconds. He rearmed a neural disruptor to his wrist and slotted a micro-dagger into his glove. The fortress had never been secure. Just unaware. He passed a wall where Dominion propaganda played on loop, Earth's cities in flames, humans surrendering. He paused. Then plunged a blade into the projector core. Sparks showered the floor. The footage died. From his earpiece, static cleared. "Raven. Copy. Package confirmed. Infiltration active across all quadrants." The voice was clipped, female, Wraith, his spotter. "Time to sunrise?" Raven asked. 34 minutes. Perimeter extraction in 40. You're ahead of schedule. I'm improvising. He tapped a wall panel. A hidden camera lens whirred, then snapped. "Broadcast to the Dominion fleet. Visual only. Send the interrogation feed, cut right before Carrix called me meet. Add a timestamp and location signature. On it." Back in the Spire's command chamber, dozens of Dominion ships across the system began receiving an encrypted feed, showing their proud generals mocking the prisoner. Their laughter. Their pride. Followed by black. Then a flashing message, CALLSIGN, Raven, live. Voss caught the signal on a console. He whispered, "He's not just dismantling our stronghold. He's dismantling our myth." Carrix roared and struck the screen, but it was too late. Outside the fortress, Dominion soldiers scrambled. Officers barked orders that never reached their squads. Communication relays jammed without cause. Gunships grounded with system errors. Generals screamed over channels already hijacked. Inside, Raven climbed toward the atrium. At the final landing, he paused, breathing steady, muscles taut. He could hear the patter of armored boots. 10, maybe 12 hostiles converging. He ducked behind a corner, activated the disruptor. As they appeared, tall insect guards with arc blades raised, he stepped from the shadows. The first collapsed before it could speak. The second lunged. Raven caught the blade with his forearm brace, twisted under, drove his elbow into the creature's throat, and dropped him silently. The rest backed up, hesitating. Big mistake. He threw a proximity pulse grenade. It exploded without fire, just silence. Every Dominion neural link in the area surged, crashed, rebooted mid-function. The squad convulsed and dropped. He kept walking. Voss watched from a security feed, cold sweat beading on his temple. "He's not escaping," he said slowly. "He's cleansing." Carrick's finally stepped back, shaken. "He wants us to run." "No. He wants us to watch." The lights flickered again, and every Dominion ship receiving the broadcast saw a new message blink into view. "Earth never forgot," Voss whispered. "What the hell are we up against?" The storm outside the VRX command spire was artificial, stoked by orbital defense grids scrambling to reset. Above the fortress, a once pristine skyline now cracked with streaks of electrical dissonance as human algorithms battled Dominion control protocols. The Dominion's empire of certainty had frayed, thread by invisible thread. But inside, Raven wasn't watching the sky. He was hunting. Hallways once patrolled by ceremonial guards now lay eerily still, the walls humming with panicked reboots and suppressed security updates. Every camera he passed flickered before going dark, signals overridden not from outside, but from the fortress's own nervous system. His voice whispered into his earpiece. "Status on Package 2? Wraith replied with precision. "En route. 10 seconds from drop. Gate Cluster 7. Make it 5. I'm lighting a match." He reached a sealed Dominion archive chamber, fingerprinted only to active generals. No alarms triggered as he placed a thin neuropad against the lock. A heartbeat passed. Then the door sighed open. Inside were rows of levitating memory cores, organic tech throbbing with pale green biolight. They held war records, target intel, operation logs, and most importantly, phase transition files. Files that detailed the Dominion's next frontier, Earth's oceans, Earth's satellites, Earth's children. He paused at a console, downloading copies into a slim neural shard. As the process began, footsteps rang from the hallway, hurried, uncoordinated, desperate. Raven didn't hide. A squad burst into the archive, weapons raised. "On the ground!" one barked in VRX. Raven didn't comply. He stepped forward. With a fluid twist, he grabbed the nearest attacker's rifle, fired 2 clean shots mid-turn, and flipped behind a column. He wasn't faster, just smarter. They reacted. He anticipated. Within seconds 5 were down. The last, a young VRX soldier, dropped his rifle and stumbled backward. Raven stood face to face with him. The boy trembled. I didn't join for this," he stammered. Raven studied him. "Then walk." The soldier hesitated, and ran. Behind Raven, the data shard blinked green. Download complete. Elsewhere, General Voss stalked through the backup command deck. The main chamber had collapsed under its own corrupted systems, like a brain eating itself. Only this wing, unlinked from central AI, offered a sliver of control. He called up a feed of the archive vault. Footage crackled, Raven surrounded, then untouched. Voss leaned closer. "He's not just extracting," he murmured. "He's collecting receipts." Carrick burst into the room, wild-eyed. "Our fleets aren't responding. Communications are locked out system-wide. Because someone inside wrote the virus, not inserted it. It's grown like cancer through our tech." Carrick snarled. "Then burn it. Erase every node. We try that, and the whole station will collapse. He's rigged us with our own ego." Carrick slammed a clawed hand on the console. "Where is he now?" Voss replied quietly. "Where we put the bones. The archive vault." Carrick turned to leave, but Voss caught his arm. "You'll die down there." Carrick's eyes glinted. "If I do, I'll take him with me." In the atrium outside the vault, Raven moved swiftly now, his pace deliberate. As he passed through the Dominion's Hall of Triumph, lined with statues of conquests and memorials of exterminated species. He paused at one depiction, a Terran city burning, children weeping at the feet of a Dominion flag. He placed a small black disk at its base and kept walking. Behind him, the disk blinked once. Then vaporized the monument. Not with fire, but with silence. The entire structure folded into itself, reduced to a crater of cooling dust. Dominion history undone in an instant. Wraith's voice crackled in again. Package 2 delivered. Local gravity field is destabilizing. They'll notice soon. They already have. Raven turned a corner and met Carrick's face to face. No guards. No backup. Just claws, rage, and delusion. You think you've won? Carrick's rasped. You're alone. No, Raven said. I'm just ahead. Carrick's lunged with blinding speed. His claws sliced toward Raven's throat, but the human ducked low, driving his elbow into Carrick's abdomen. The general roared and countered, smashing Raven against the wall. Plates cracked. Blood welled at Raven's lip. But pain was fuel. He twisted mid-grapple and activated his glove's microblade. It slid between Carrick's armor plating with surgical efficiency. Carrick staggered, gurgled, and fell. Raven stood over him, breathing hard. Carrick rasped. You think this matters? It does, Raven whispered. To the ones you silenced. He reached down and deactivated the biosignal in Carrick's chest, the last key to full Dominion system control. The station's lights stuttered, then shifted from red to cold blue. Wraith's voice snapped in. Full access confirmed. External controls unlocked. All systems routed to ShadowNet. Raven looked to the atrium dome above. Initiate Ravenfall protocol. Target, VRX Central Fleet. Clear them from orbit. Confirmed. Initiating orbital burn in T-60. Alarms howled throughout the fortress as Dominion ships, once proud and invincible, began to vanish in bursts of calculated fire. Raven stood in the chaos, silent. He wasn't here to escape. He was here to end a legacy. The fortress shook. Not from explosives or impact, but from within, systems tearing themselves apart as Raven's override rippled through every protocol the VRX had ever trusted. Automated defenses reversed their targeting matrices. Docking clamps unlocked. Data cores unraveled. What once held order now bred chaos. General Voss stood alone in the upper command spire, watching his empire fracture through flickering holodisplays. We made a god out of control, he whispered, his voice brittle. Below, Raven stalked the central corridor of the spire, the very same hall where hours earlier he had knelt in chains. Now he moved freely, shoulders squared, bloody but resolute. The path behind him was scorched and silent. Wraith's voice crackled in his earpiece. All Ravenfall subroutines complete. Dominion fleet neutralized. Confirming 0 civilian casualties. Only military signatures targeted. Raven's reply was quiet. Good. He paused at the vaulted entrance to the final chamber, Hall of Governance. Beyond it, broadcast relays still pulsed across the sector. A last mouthpiece for a dying regime. He stepped inside. Voss was waiting, unarmed. You're not a soldier, the VRX general said. You're a contagion. Raven didn't stop walking. No. I'm the correction. Voss gestured to the broken systems, the crumbling structure. Then finish it. Kill me. Burn what's left. Isn't that what you came for? I came for justice, Raven said. But I'll settle for memory. He held out the neural shard, now filled with Dominion war crimes, genocide logs, covert operations masked as peace treaties. This doesn't go to Earth's vaults. It goes to everyone. Let the galaxy see what your civilization meant. Voss laughed, a cold, brittle sound. You think exposing us will change anything? Power doesn't dissolve under shame. No, Raven replied. But it can drown in truth. He approached the main console, inserted the shard, and let the stream begin. Holograms ignited around the room, Images of prisoners, desecrated worlds, erased species. The horrors the Dominion had buried in layers of redacted code now flashed freely across galactic channels. Voss sagged into his chair, watching his legacy disintegrate. "You're a ghost, Raven," he murmured. "No medals. No homecoming." "I don't need a parade," Raven said. "I need them to remember." Above them, the orbital cannons powered down. ShadowNet confirmed total system collapse. Every Dominion beacon in the sector had been reduced to digital ash, except this one. This was the message. The ending they'd write themselves. Raven turned to leave. Voss didn't follow. Outside, the horizon cracked open. A Terran extraction cruiser shimmered into view, phasing through the atmosphere like a predator uncloaking. Its engine stirred the dust and debris of the fallen spire. Boarding lights flashed, silent, steady. Raven reached the landing pad as Wraith descended the ramp. She wore the matte black armor of their division, her rifle magnetically clipped to her back. Her face was unreadable. Familiar. "You did it," she said. Raven nodded once. "We did it." She looked past him at the smoldering ruin. "You always walk away alone," she said quietly. Raven didn't answer. He stepped into the bay. As the hatch sealed behind them, the ship lifted, a whisper among flames. Inside the cabin, a screen pulsed to life. It displayed a live feed, millions of species watching the broadcast. Words translated across dozens of languages. "CALLSIGN Raven, Earth remembers. The silence ends here." Far away, on a neutral world, a young girl in a dusty market stall stopped to watch the message. Her mother tugged at her hand. "Who was that man?" she asked. The vendor replied, not looking away from the screen. "Not a man. A warning." Back aboard the ship, Raven sat quietly, removing the glove from his hand. His skin bore a faint mark, a feather inked in nanocarbon, faded from years of war. He touched it gently, like a memory. Wraith sat across from him. "You still hear them, don't you?" He didn't pretend not to understand. "They were my team," he said. "And I failed them once." This was the apology. She leaned back. "And what now?" He looked out the viewport, where stars folded into each other, endless and unfamiliar. "Now," he murmured, "we vanish again. Until someone else forgets why they should fear the dark."